Bowerbird kind of represents us. It collects things. We collect data. Bowerbirds build these beautiful bowers to attract a mate. We build learning platforms to attract learners. So, so we felt there was like a nice little analogy there for what we do and how we present ourselves. So I'm going to take things back to 1995, which is the dawn of the search era. This is when the internet was just getting really big. Before 1995, there were maybe something like 2,000 websites. By the end of 1995, there were 2 million websites. So search engines came to be in, like how do we organize information? How do we find the most relevant information? It became a new problem, new challenging problem that was solved through Yahoo, these directory systems. I will tie this back to L&D. Bear with me for a second. So these directory systems were manually curated by humans. They categorized websites. I think like as a website creator, you could submit it to Yahoo and then they would validate it and they'd put you into these categories. The search didn't really work that well. You basically have to navigate through and find what you wanted. So, it works pretty well for the time. 2 million websites, it's fine. People can find what they want. But then came something else. Google PageRank. So does anyone know about Google PageRank?
That's a tricky question because that shows our age. So
Never heard of it? Well played. So let me enlighten you. Google, this is so Google before they were their own standalone search engine, Larry Page and Sergey Brin, they invented this algorithm called PageRank. So instead of using a directory system for organizing the information on the web, they used this ranking algorithm that relied on backlinks, so other websites linking to other websites to work out authority and trust and what was the most relevant information for someone. The thing about this is like they kind of shopped it around to all these search engines, all these directory-based systems, and every single one of them were like, nah, we don't need that. They had this viewpoint that human-created content will always be better than an algorithm. And so they all turned them down. They didn't want Google PageRank. They're like, stop that. We've got a good thing going here. So you know what Google did? They created it themselves. They created their own search engine on the back of their PageRank algorithm. And I don't know, do you guys, like, is Google still around? I think they did pretty well with that. So the lesson to take away from here is that, we as humans, we always think we can do better than a machine. But actually there is things that machines can do better than us. And it's in a vast space of information and wealth, it can organize information and find the most relevant things for individuals. And like on top of that, like this is a much more simplified user experience. You don't have to click around and go through directories to find what you want. There's just a simple input box. You just type in what you're looking for. And for a large part of history, Google gave you relevant results. It's kind of getting a bit worse now. People have gamed it, but that interface has barely changed. You still type what you want and you still find what you want. But it's important to understand that Google had access to the same information, the same internet as everyone else. So it wasn't that they had better websites, it's that they found a better way to organize that information. So how does all this relate to L&D? Well, we kind of have this process right now for developing learning modules, which is pretty convoluted. A lot of humans in the loop. I don't know if this is familiar to people. You kind of have a stakeholder comes in, they have a learning need. Like we need to build a learning module. It goes to an instructional designer. They speak to us, goes back and forth, build a storyboard, review the storyboard, feedback. That loop might take like, 4 weeks. Finally signed off, go to the development team. They then build the module. You've got another feedback loop where it gets reviewed by a stakeholder, back and forth. It takes weeks or months. Fair to say? Is that people's experience in the room? You got it down? You've got it. Okay, a little bit better? But most of the time. Sorry. Are you a ClearXP client? Okay. Yeah. So there's some parts of this is really important. Other parts, I think we can, moving forward, learning from where we can use machines to make things a little bit more efficient. We kind of see that some advancements can strip that down to streamline process. So this is without ruffling too many feathers here. So, and he's just like, that's all me. He's just like, I can handle all those roles. So we can kind of cut down the process drastically using AI, which, as I'm sure you guys have a lot of seen these advancements. There's still really important aspects in this, which is like you still need the subject matter expert to source the material. You still need the learning design. Oh, I had that in a structural designer before. I think that role is going to change very slightly. They still need to be there to take the information, find out what's relevant, and then I think you can skip the whole storyboarding step and go straight to a learning module, review your feedback, and then tighten that down to like an hours a day's process. So hopefully, I mean, there's a lot more advancements to go in terms of the technology, but I think this is a reality that can happen, and that's something that we're trying to develop and we're trying to see come to fruition. So, what does this mean for the people currently in these roles? Because this is the big fear in the industry right now. Is like, oh, like man, we just got rid of like a whole bunch of people. I just want to take a step back and go, okay, so that's what it was before. And who are we cutting out of that picture? I'll just go forward. That's what we're stripped out. So mostly it's the development team. And unfortunately, I guess fortunately for many of the people in the room, that's like an outsourced role. So we still think like the learning methodology is really, really important. And the actual building can be sped up through technology. Unfortunately for us, that's kind of like a lot of what we do. So we're kind of deprecating ourselves. So the question really is like, what's the output of all this? Does it provide better learning for people? The efficiencies gains don't necessarily mean that you're going to have more effective learning. And the thing that I kind of realized, like looking at some of the tools out in the market today, is they kind of do suck. They kind of produce the same like static courses that you could already like. I mean, authoring tools could already do this, just a lot more like manual labor into it. But I don't know if it like really produces the most effective type of learning. Like these static courses where you go through and like the videos obviously make it more engaging, but like flip cards and click and reveals, they're very superficial. I don't know, like we've got a lot of learning methodology experts here. Like, do flip cards work? Do they do anything?
Click on them.
People click on them because they have to, especially when you lock the page, they can't continue to like click on them. Thank you. Been proven. Science. So I'm not going to name and shame where this came from. Is it that old? I'm not going to name and shame. It could be, yeah. This is also a very popular format, right? It's like the menu down the side, a vertical scroll, blah, 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 blah. So we think the L&D function is going to change slightly. And we've been looking into that. And we think one of the things, aside from speeding up the learning development process, we think AI should really be used to make better learning at the same time. And so this little like screenshot of like what we kind of are working on is, rather than just using AI to make it faster to create the exact same kind of static boring content, you can use AI on the learner end to make better learning experiences. So the example here being, rather than always multiple choice questions where there's one clear right answer and 3 clearly wrong answers, you ask someone to explain a concept and you use AI to evaluate how correct they are, and you provide personalized feedback so they have a personalized learning experience. And that's kind of where we're putting the focus. So we're trying to speed up the learning module development process, or I should say learning programs, because we're kind of in the business of programs, not so much modules. Like your compliance modules, do that with Rise, do that with Adapt. I don't care. That's not what we're about. We're about like when you actually want the learning programs to make a difference to your organization. You want a more impactful experience for your learners. You want to see some end results to the business. So we're focusing on being able to more quickly build those learning programs, and then also bring in more interesting and engaging learning experiences into them. I could show you way more slides on that, but you probably want to see how it kind of works. And the example I'm going to give you, because it's relevant to the topic at hand today, is like, I think let's say like future L&D tech. And this is standard AI stuff. I don't need to explain it right, but what we're doing is like, rather than just giving a prompt to AI like ChatGPT or Gemini or whatever you do, is we take the prompt and we actually analyze it for like Bloom's taxonomy to know like what types of levels of blooms you want to get, and then the most appropriate learning to evaluate those levels. So we're not treating it as just be like, oh, generate me like an e-learning course on workplace safety. It's more like, oh, well, let me give you an actual example. Yes, the outcomes. So learners will be able to evaluate the different blooms. Since blooms again as my example here. Bloom's taxonomy levels, and use AI to assess each level in a corporate learning setting. So what we're really talking about here is going forward in the future, L&D professionals, I want you to be able to like analyze the blooms level and then use AI to more accurately evaluate that, which is kind of the example I had up on the screen before, which is having a short answer response and using AI to evaluate it to show that someone has a level of understanding rather than just remembering the multiple choice answer. Makes sense? Cool. I hope this works. So, yeah, I know, right? There's no fallback. Really strongly recommend that you supply some source material here. I was going to write up a little like manifesto on what AI technologies apply to different blooms levels. Didn't really get around to it, so we're going to do like a off the cuff. What does AI come up with? It's probably not going to be really good. You're going to get much better results if you do supply information here. Yes, let's see what it does. So this is the most important screen. And this is where we're trying to apply learning methodology to our AI generation. So we realized that not all programs are created equally. You have different needs that you're trying to basically create the program for. So we did talk about role readiness, which is compliance, but it could also be like a change in the role. So being able to like upskill in a new skill, improve performance to someone's like not performing a certain area. Maybe you want to give them like more specialized training program to make them better at their role. Oh no, compliance biscuits, that one. So, no one called me out. That's the compliance risk. Role readiness. It's the same stuff, but not compliant. Support career growth, growing to a new, up training to a new role. So management training, that kind of stuff. So we use all of this to change how the program's structured, because obviously, like the compliance example it's really important that they get things right. Whereas the performance example or the career growth example is correctness is maybe not so important as opposed to like retention and performing better, effectiveness. So it really informs the output of the program. The L&D technologies, I'm probably going to say role readiness because it's about like upskilling in the role. And then we have these constraints because the thing is like when you're delivering learning within an organization, you often have some constraint imposed by the business, which is going to change how that program should be delivered. So for example, I think like campaigns are really effective, like spaced campaigns over time. But sometimes you're like, oh, I need everyone to know, like have this content and knowledge within the next 2 weeks. And so a campaign's not effective. So you have these constraints imposed by the business, which is going to change how the program is developed. And so we basically ask this up front. We're like, okay, well, what are you all trying to achieve here? And if I'm putting myself in the shoes of this room here, where I'm going to basically generate a program that we're all going to have to try at, the thing is I want to like minimize time to competency. I want to get everyone through this training as quickly as possible. I want to reduce the training hours. I want to maybe improve knowledge accuracy. So make sure that you really remember things. So there's all these inherent tensions between these constraints. And what we're going to do is like, we're going to basically find the most appropriate learning mechanic that fits the type of training we're trying to deliver whilst also adhering to constraints. So away we go. Let's see what happens. The AI does its thing. It starts basically pulling together all that information. Like we put all those smarts and methodologies into it, being like, okay, when you pick those things, you should draw from these different mechanics, and you should be able to basically structure the optimal program that meets those constraints and meets the needs. And it doesn't normally take too long. Oh, there we go. There we go. Program's being generated. Yeah, it's just like, I'm going to stall by drinking. We can do that if you want.
That's the optimum.
Challenge accepted. Challenge accepted. So looking at this program here, it's actually not a very interesting one because it's just kind of giving me like one big topic area. And it's generating modules, like micro-learning modules within that and a couple assessments. As they come through, like this one's already generated. Actually, yeah, all three are generated. We can go through and edit those, and we can just kind of like open it up in our editor, which is not too crash hot, but like does the job. So yeah, little text and images, often shows rapidly transforming industries worldwide. Cool. Oh yeah, this is kind of cool. I'll show you this in a second. This is like comes back to my previous point about like static content and dynamic content. So we have here is what we call like an example of the information being portrayed. When a learner goes through this, so we're going to look at their role in the industry and we're going to customize this example and personalize it to them. Because one of the things that I really believe is that when you go through and learn something, having relevant examples to your job makes you retain that information much more effectively than if it's just some arbitrary, marketing. I'm not working in marketing. Like that doesn't make sense to me. So I'm going to give you like all a live link to this. You can input your roles and positions, and you'll see how the content customizes to what you enter. So yeah, you can go through and you can change this stuff. It's standard content authoring kind of thing. Not too exciting, but it does the job. The magic is really like in how we build the whole program and we structure it to those constraints. So you could go back through and you could change things and be like, oh, I want to maximize retention, and it might do a spaced repetition campaign. We have a whole bunch of learning mechanics. That's the thing that we do differently. Is it's not just like flip cards. We have all these different things that you can compose your program from. So obviously you can put like an e-learning module in there, you put videos and stuff in there. You can put simulations, which is like this kind of you have to build yourself a little bit, but going through like a platform simulation, clicking hotspots and things like that. Role plays. This is like an AI generated one, so you can go through like a customer role play simulation. And we just got heaps of these learning mechanics. They're all backed by XAPI, so we just get rich data and analytics to see how people engage with them. Engagement as well, gamification things, points, badges, all that stuff will come in based on the constraints that you put up front. And if you don't like it, just change it yourself. Just scrap what you don't like and adapt as necessary. Yeah, exactly. So the power's still in your hand. And that's like the whole thing of the learning designer role is like, we're just speeding up that process and then we're giving you time to think about like what is going to be the most effective learning and make use of it yourselves. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to bring up one that we did before. So this was the exact same program. It gave me like just because you should, by the way, you should validate all the content in there. Don't just launch it straight away. I just went through this one earlier today and just made sure that was good content. It gave me slightly better results as well. So here's a QR code. If you just scan this, guys, like feel free to check out this content if you can from a distance. Yeah. Is it launching?
Yeah.
Nice. I'm also going to bring it up here. Is everyone who wanted to scan has scanned? Scan. This is stealing your credit card information, so that's really this is what this is really about. Cool. You should get this pre-programmed survey. This is what I mentioned before. Put in put in any industry or role you want. You'll see how content gets personalized to you. I'm going to put in my role, which is like actually software technology. CTO. Oops. Launch what is Bloom's. And so, yeah, right now it's like on demand, customizing content for my role. So yeah, consider when you're designing, training, or onboarding programs within software technology, remembering objective might involve a developer recalling specific syntax or API endpoints, very specific to my role in industry. And so that's like, try this and just see how well it performs. And then just like have a play with the content again as well. Like go through it. And if you all like get bored, that's actually kind of good for us because then we can see the analytics and see where people drop off. This is the other thing we found with all the data is that people didn't know how to interpret it. And so now we do a thing where we find these things where it's like, oh, something's going on here, 63% drop off, like drawing your attention to where things have gone wrong. These charts are harder to analyze because some people aren't doing certain things. So that's the thing that we're trying to solve with adaptive learning is like, yeah, you can do your assessment up front. And then we realize it's like, oh, you don't need to do like exploring Bloom's Canadians. You've got that. But then it's like, well, now this is no longer an absolute number. It's now like a relative number proportions to people who are actually being told to do it. And we're just trying to figure out how to portray that in our reports. Right now, we're looking at like a single learning program on a single topic. But really, when you expand this out to a learner's like entire organizational learning that they need to do, like that's really when it gets really powerful. Part of like what I wanted to demonstrate here was that we now have better ways of evaluating Bloom's levels.
Yeah.
So whereas before with like just box standard e-learning is like you just have like quizzes and you're just testing remembering, right? Like so being able to test each of those levels, that's where AI comes in really beneficially. I showed the understanding thing with a short answer assessment. You can, with like the next level up, it's analyzing. It may be analyzing. So what you could start to do is then like feed other people's responses back to other learners to show that they can identify what the other person got correct and didn't get correct. So now you have a bit of a social interaction as well.
Yeah.
And then you have like the judging one, which is just like, okay, well, I'm going to give you multiple responses from different learners and you tell me which is the best one. And now you're moving up to the next level. And then you have evaluating. Oh, yeah. And then creating. Creating's like, creating, synthesizing. That's probably the hardest one, to be honest. That's probably one which it's really hard to evaluate with AI because it's not very good at like if you're creating like a new, depending on like what the topic is that you want the learner to demonstrate, if they're creating some new subject or like object for that, AI is actually pretty hard at evaluating that and knowing like if you've done it correctly. That's probably like that level 6 is probably where it cuts off. We can do like 1 to 5 really well. There's definitely techniques for that. Yeah. And that's kind of the beauty of like having like these new learning mechanics that we could never do before. And this is the thing is like we're intentionally being like, we don't want to introduce technology which is just going to create kind of crappy content. We're raising the floor. We're not going to be like, oh, you can do like, we don't want to generate stuff. That's intentional about that. So some things we're just like, we're on a bit of a hold on until the technology catches up. The fact that you're like the instructional designer, learning designer role is changing is really in the sense that like it's freeing you up to be able to like understand your learners better, move quicker, be more agile, and then create better learning.